Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my top 3 favorite mechanisms in our brand new game, Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. I say brand new because this game is completely brand new, but it's based on the original version of Libertalia that was published 10 years ago by a different company. So we got the rights to this game. We worked with the designer, Paolo Mori, to completely rework the game. Aside from the core mechanism is the same, and I'll get to that in a second. But to rework pretty much every aspect of the game to update it and make it and enhance it and make it as great as it can possibly be, as much as I already enjoyed the original game. So I'm going to focus on 3 mechanisms, 2 of which are different from the original version, and 1 of which is pretty similar. I'll start with that one because the core mechanism in Libertalia is that you start with the same hand of cards as the other players. You start with 6 random cards, but those random cards, each player has the same 6 random cards. So you have that hand of cards, and you decide on your turn, you choose one of those cards from hand, you put it face down in front of you, and then you reveal at the same time as other players. And then you order them on the ship. And the player with the lowest numbered card goes first if they have any daytime abilities. And then you go through these daytime abilities from lowest to highest. And then you gather loot tokens from the highest card to the lowest player. And you can see those loot tokens. The loot tokens are on the board. You know what they are. But I love this this balance of which card do I play and when do I play it, knowing that you have the same cards as all other players. And so you have a lot of information there. It isn't a random thing. You aren't randomly choosing the card. You aren't completely guessing what other players might play. And once you play that card, with a few exceptions based on character abilities, that's the only time you will ever play that card in the game. And cards carry over, unplayed cards carry over from round to round. And so if I start the game with this scout, but I choose not to play the scout in the first round, that could be a big thing. I'm essentially, you're not building an engine per se, but you are preparing for a big move in the future when you have more information, because you can watch to see have the other players played their scout yet. This is even more advantageous once you see these higher cards come out. So now we have cards that go up to 40 instead of 30 like in the original game. But if you have the governor in your original opening hand, so you know each player has the governor, and you can kind of see as players start to play that governor, and maybe you're the only one left. And so you might wait until you're the only player left, and then you're guaranteed to know that when you play the governor, you have the highest card on the table. There's no need for a tiebreaker, nothing like that to come into play. So I just love this entire hand management, simultaneous action selection, and order of operations style of the game. This whole core mechanism I really, really love. Now let me mention 2 mechanisms that are new to Libertalia Winds of Galecrest. One is the 2-player mode. So one of the weak spots, according to people, and I would somewhat agree, of the original Libertalia, is that it wasn't as robust of a game at 2 players as it was from 3 to 6 players. And so we added a 3rd player, but not in a bot form. And Paolo and I talked a lot about this. How can we do this without making it feel like there's a bot in the game? So instead, all you do in a 2-player game during setup is that you add this tile to the board, and it even shows you exactly where to add it in the card row. And what it does is it essentially says that there is a 3rd player in the game who is always playing this card. And this is not a card in the game. This is exactly in the middle of all the other cards in the game. So the cards go up to 40. This is 20.5. So this is in between those cards. And so it's possible for each human player, to play cards that are lower than this card, and if so, they go down here, they go below it. It's possible for them to both play higher cards, if so, they go higher. And sometimes there's a player might play a card that's lower, and another player might play a card that's higher. And what it does, I don't know if you can see it on the screen here, but it says if a character is directly to the left of the midshipman, that character's opponent removes a loot token from the current day. And so there's a player who acts on behalf of the midshipman to remove a loot token. It means that there are 3 loot tokens on that day instead of normally 2, because there are loot tokens equal to the number of players. And there's a little bit more interaction here. You have some more options if you play higher, and you have some decisions to make if you go lower. Last, the 3rd ability, new element of this game that I really like, are the loot tiles, not the loot tokens. So we have these loot tokens in the game, and they are redone. They're these Azul-style Bakelite tokens. But in addition to that, similar to Quacks of Quedlinburg, you can change the meaning of those tokens by using the loot tiles. So for example, I dropped the hook, so I'll show you the saber. So this side of the saber says, discard another player's character from the island. That's the evening ability here. However, The other side is a little different. This is a subtle difference. Discard a character of your choice from an adjacent player's ship. This is kind of the slightly meaner side of the saber. This version is a little mean, but not quite as mean. And so you can completely randomize these tiles if you want. The change completely kind of that's called the Uncharted Mode in the game, to give a bunch of different meanings to the different loot tokens in the game. Or you can simply open the board and ignore these tiles and play on one of two sides of the board. You can play on the calm side of the board, which has kind of the nicer abilities for these loot tiles, or you can play on the stormy side of the board, which has the meaner, well, some might say more piratey definitions for these different loot tokens on that side of the board. So we give players a couple different modes of play that they can use to add hopefully a lot more replayability and variability to the game. Again, similar to Cracks of Quedlinburg, a game that I really love. So there are many other mechanisms in the game. Those are probably my 3 favorite. And once you get the chance to play the game, I'd love to hear what your favorite mechanisms are. I keep pointing back here in Libertalia, Winds of Galecrest. Thanks.